A very warm welcome to this video. I am Prabal Nandwani and you're watching the monthly predictions for the month of November 2023. Let us first of all have a look at the planetary changes which are happening this month. The first and the most important change is that Rahu and Ketu have changed their signs. Rahu has moved to Pisces and Ketu has moved with its retrograde motion to Virgo. Now, what does this mean? How will it impact your life for the next 1.5 years is something which I'll be discussing when I take up the predictions for various signs one by one. Now, apart from that, Saturn gets retrograde earlier, but now it is getting direct from November 5th. Apart from it, Sun and Mars, they move to the sign of Scorpio on the 16th of November. Mercury moves on the 7th of November to Scorpio and on the 27th to the sign of Sagittarius. And finally, we have a final change of Venus moving ahead on the 3rd in the sign of Virgo, meeting Ketu, and then moving on to its own sign of Libra on the 30th of November. Now, apart from these planetary changes, there are certain planetary combinations which are happening in the month of November 2023, and they are that on the 13th of November we have the new moon, after which the waxing half is going to start, and then we'll have the full moon on the 27th of November, and after that again the waning half is going to start. So if you have something important which is to be started, then the auspicious time is always the waxing half, which will be from the 13th till the 27th of November. Now we also have the Gaj Kesari Yoga, which happens with the combination of Moon and Jupiter. It happens on the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, the 12th, the 13th, the 19th, the 20th, the 25th, and the 26th of November. Now we have the Mahalakshmi Yoga, which is the yoga of Mars and Moon. It happens on the 12th of November. And finally the Buddha Aditya Yoga, which happens from the 1st to the 6th of November, and again from the 17th till the 26th of November. Now, apart from all these, the gods are showering their immense blessings on you all throughout November 2023, and we have certain important festivals. On the 1st, we have Karwa Chauth. On the 12th, we have Deepavali, and this is a very, very important day, especially for those who want to get some remedies done for their financial problems, financial issues. Then on the 13th, we have Govardhan Puja. On the 15th, we have Bhai Dooj, and finally on the 30th of November, we have the Guru Nanak Jayanti. Now, what does all this planetary placement, its combinations, etc. mean for each and individual sign is something which I am going to discuss next. But before I move on, there are certain important things which I need to discuss. Many people contact me and they ask which particular segment or which particular sign they should watch in the prediction video. Then you have to consider the time of birth when you were born at that particular time. Where did the ascendant fall? Where did the moon fall? So that particular sign is important for you, and if you watch that particular segment in this video, then it will be pertinent to you. The next important thing is that the time of birth is very important, because there are certain combinations which are there in your birth chart. They play a role throughout your life. So for example, Jupiter is very well placed in Aries. However, if somebody is having a dragon's tail or Ketu placed over there, then he or she might not be able to gain the immense blessing which Jupiter is gaining. So therefore, whatever I say in this video is always subject to the planetary combinations which exist in your birth chart. Finally, one more thing, and that is whatever we do on an individual basis, that is your birth chart or the predictions which I am giving, it is subject to the Kundali or the horoscope of the country, and which is subject to the horoscope of the world. So if there is something bad happening around the world in the universal chart, this is the universal chart or the chart of the world, then of course we will not be able to gain on an individual level many other things. So for example, if the 10th house is very nice, if the profession is supposed to be very nice, but you are living in a conflict area of Israel and Palestine, or Hamas and Israel, then there is a problem, and you can't supersede that problem just because your profession is nice, because your birth chart is subject to the birth chart or subject to the chart of the country or the world. And if we see the chart of the world, it is quite gloomy, because Jupiter is bereft of strength. It has just crossed Rahu. So the central, it is placed in the sign where the decision makers sit, that is the central governments or the key governments of the world, and somehow the power of nobility, the power of benevolence has been reduced. Moreover, the sign of God or the Pisces sign, there the mischievous Rahu is there, which means the fights will take place at places of religious importance. And then Rahu is moving towards Saturn, Saturn moving towards Rahu, and which shows that the level of sin or the level of evil in the world is going to increase in the next 1.5 years time. And this is going to subside only once the power of Jupiter increases and power of Rahu decreases. And the power of Jupiter is going to increase when it enters the sign of Cancer, and it is still a long way to go. 2.5 years still are there. So that is the reason why I was not very comfortable making videos. However, I received a lot of messages and calls that please continue to give the videos, and here I am presenting to you the monthly predictions for the month of November 2023, but which are subject to the horoscope of the world. Alright, that being said, let us move forward and talk about the Aries sign. Let us first of all have a look at the various planetary placements in the Aries horoscope. In the first house we have Jupiter. In your 5th house you have Venus. In the 6th house you have Ketu. In the 7th house you have 3 planets, Sun, and then Mars, and then Mercury. And then in the 11th house you have the presence of Saturn, and in the 12th house the mischievous Rahu. What does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something that we are going to discuss right away. First, let's talk about the luck factor, which is seen from the 9th house. The owner of the 9th house happens to be Jupiter, and he is sitting in the Ascendant very comfortably, and therefore luck is running high. If there were some important things in your life, or lifetime decisions to be made, yes, this is the time you can make it. Next, let's talk about your health. Health is seen from the 1st house, and the presence of Jupiter over there is naturally boosting the immunity power. The owner of the 1st house happens to be Rahu. Till the 16th, it is there in the 7th house, aspecting back its own house. However, from the 16th, it is going to enter the 8th house, and that is where there's a little cause of concern, because the immunity will be a little low, the digestive power would be a little low, there might be some BP issues, etc. Moving forward and talking about your love life now. Love is seen from the 5th house. The owner of the 5th house in your case happens to be Sun, and the Sun is comfortably placed in the 7th house till the 16th, which means it is a good time to convert your love into marriage. If you're thinking of proposing your love partner for marriage, then yes, this is a very good time, but not after the 16th, because after the 16th, Sun moves on to the 8th house of Scorpio, and then the chances are not that bright. Let's move forward and talk about your marital life, which is seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house happens to be Venus, and Venus is going to meet from the 3rd to the 30th of November Ketu, and this is going to be a troublesome time for the health of your spouse, and even some kind of misunderstandings between you and your partner because of the presence of many other people, because Sun, Mars and Mercury are occupying the 7th house. So please do not just believe what others say, and take your partner to be on the merits of the past deeds which you have done for each other. That will provide you a lot of solace, and that will be able to create, then you'll be able to create harmony in your relationship. Let's move forward and talk about your education now. Now, education is seen from the 5th house, and again, the owner of the 5th house is sitting with the Karka, or the natural significator of education, that is Mercury, till the 16th in the 7th house, which is good, and then it will go to the 8th house, which will not be very good. So in case you can take some examinations before the 16th, it is far better, because after that you'll have to put in a little more effort. Let's talk about the career now. So career is seen from the 10th house, and the owner of the 10th house happens to be Saturn, which is comfortably placed in the 11th house. This promises to be a very good period for your career, because earlier Saturn was retrograde, earlier Saturn was in the grips of Ketu, but now Ketu has moved, now Saturn has direct, and therefore there are new opportunities on the horizon for you. Talking about your business now. Business is seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house, unfortunately, is meeting Ketu from the 3rd till the 30th, and this is something which is which is causing a little concern, but it's the 6th house. So what I'll suggest is to hold your horses till the 30th, because after that Venus is going to enter its own sign of Libra, and that is when the business will start to boom, and that is when you can let your plans afloat. All right, so let us move on now to the Taurus sign. First of all, let's have a look at the placements of planets in your horoscope in the month of November 2023. Well, we have Venus in your 4th house, Ketu in your 5th house, Sun, Mars and Mercury in your 6th house, Saturn in your 10th house, Rahu in your 11th house, and Jupiter in your 12th house. Now, what does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something that we are going to discuss right ahead. Let's take your luck factor first. Luck is seen from the 9th house, and the owner of the 9th house is sitting in the 10th house comfortably well, which promises a good fortune for you. If you were planning to take some important decisions for your life, then yes, this is the time. Let's talk about your health now. The owner of the 1st house happens to be Venus. Venus is going to meet Ketu in the 5th house from the 3rd till the 30th of November. Therefore, you need to be on guard. It sometimes causes falls, joint pains, hormonal changes, etc. So do not talk while you're on stairs. Do not think when you are in the washroom. These are some of the things which you can do to prevent mishaps. Next, let's talk about your love life, which is seen from the 5th house. Now, the owner of the 5th house happens to be Mercury, and Mercury is placed with Mars, but from the 16th, it will go to the 7th house, which means that it will be a good time if you want to propose for your love partner for marriage after the 16th. But broadly speaking, as far as new relationships are concerned, this is not a very conducive time because Ketu has come now in your 5th house. So this is for 1.5 years. What it does is it creates relationships which do not last longer because of inflexibility of attitude in the other person. So in case you can be forgiving, then the relationships can last longer. Let's move ahead now and talk about your marital life. Marital life is seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house happens to be Mars, and it is going to come in the 7th house from the 16th along with Sun, which happens to be the 4th house, and therefore marital relations and marital life is going to be good, especially after the 16th of November. Now let's concentrate on your education, which is seen from the 5th house. Ketu is there. It will give you tremendous amount of concentration in education, but Mercury is there with Mars and Sun, so therefore the problems will be there. That means you'll have to study more and you'll be able to get less marks. So put in some more effort just to make sure, and overconfidence is somehow to be minimized, because Mercury along with Sun and Mars give a tendency to be overconfident and postpone your studies till the end, and then of course you know what the result is. So let's move on now and talk about your career. Career is seen from the 10th house. In the 10th house we have the presence of the mighty Saturn, who's comfortably sitting over there, and therefore the career is now going to pick up. The problems which Ketu was causing to Saturn are over. Ketu has moved. Saturn is now direct. All of this promises a good career prospect. So it is going to pick up. The obstacles are getting cleared. There will be new opportunities which are falling your way. And now let's move on and talk about business. Business is seen from the 7th house, and Mars is the owner of the 7th house and will be joining the 7th house from the 16th. So with Mars in the 7th house, Saturn in the 10th, I think it promises a very nice firm ground for your business endeavors. Let's move forward and now talk about the Gemini sign. Let's see where the planets are placed in the Gemini horoscope for November 2023. We have Venus in the 3rd house, we have Ketu in the 4th house, we have Sun, Mars and Mercury sitting in the 5th house, Saturn in the 9th house, Rahu in the 10th house, and Jupiter in the 11th house. Now what does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something that we are going to discuss right ahead. Starting with the luck factor, which is seen from the 9th house. The owner of the 9th house is Saturn and is sitting in the 9th house, which is really a very good blessing to have. And therefore luck is running on the high. If you were thinking of taking certain important steps for your life, yes, this is the time. Luck does support you. Moving forward and talking about your health now, the health is seen from the first house. In the first house, we don't have any planet, but the owner of the first house is Mercury. It will be joining the 6th house from the 7th of November, along with Sun and Mars, and therefore you need to be on guard from the 7th till the 27th. It might give you some fever problems or problems in some genital areas or in the lower part of the abdomen, some boils, something like those. And if that happens, then you can chant the mantras of Mars in order to make sure that your problems are alleviated. The Bij mantra of Mars is Om Krang Kring Krong Sa Bhamaya Nama. Om Krang Kring Krong Sa Bhamaya Nama. A separate video on this Bij mantra is available on my YouTube channel. Let's move forward and let's talk about your love life now. Now, the love life is seen from the 5th house, and the owner of the 5th house is going to practically be with Ketu all throughout this month, which means it is not a very good time. If you were thinking to propose somebody, then do it after this month when Venus moves on to the 5th house. Let's talk about your marital prospects now. The owner of your 7th house, from where the marital prospects are seen, happens to be Jupiter, and it is comfortably placed in Aries in the 11th house. It promises good times as far as marital happiness is concerned. For those of you who were looking in for marriage, even for them, this promises to be a time when you can enter into this pious relationship. Let's move forward and talk about your education. Now, in the house of education, we have Sun, Mars and Mercury till the 16th, when the Sun and Mars move from here. And till the time Mercury is there, that is the 7th of November, it is a good time. But after that, you'll have to study a little harder, because even the 5th Lord is meeting Ketu, which gives lesser marks, and Mercury is with Mars, which again give lesser marks, other than if you're studying maths, in which you can score more, or if you're studying metaphysical subjects, in which again you can score more. Let's talk about your career now. Career is seen from the 10th house, and the 10th house is occupied by the mischievous Rahu. And this is, for most of the people, this will be not a very conducive proposition unless and until you are engaged in businesses of gas, or you have a mischievous kind of business. For example, you are running a antisocial organization, then it is a different issue altogether. But by and large, for most of the people, this is who have Gemini Ascendant or Gemini Moon sign, it is not a very promising time as far as career is concerned. There might be backbiting issues, the boss may not like you, you may not like the boss, and things like those. Let's move ahead, and all of this also creates a lot of confusion in your mind as to what the vision should be. So you end up choosing wrong projects or wrong assignments for yourself. Now let us move on to the business prospects, which are seen from the 7th house. Yes, this is a good time because the 7th Lord is in the 11th house. So this is a good time, especially Saturn sitting in the 9th house supporting you as far as destiny or the luck factor is concerned. And therefore, in case you were planning to open up some new business, or to explore some new territories, or to add some new product lines, yes, this is the time you may go ahead and do so. Let's move forward and talk about the Cancer sign now. Well, in the Cancer horoscope, we have Venus occupying the 2nd house, Ketu occupying the 3rd house, the Sun, the Mars and the Mercury occupying the 4th house, Saturn occupying the 8th house, Rahu the 9th house, Jupiter the 10th house. What does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something that we are going to discuss right ahead. Let us first of all concentrate on your luck factor. Rahu has entered your 9th house, which means the luck is a little down, and not only for this month but for 1.5 years. What it does is it forces you to live in a nuclear family. So if you're staying with in a joint family, then don't look for parting your ways and staying only in a nuclear family. It also promotes negative or unethical activities, so don't do that. If you can somehow prevent yourself from indulging in unethical activities, then this Rahu won't harm your chances of luck, it won't mar your luck. So that is something very important to consider. Number next is your health, and health is seen from the Ascendant, and Ascendant is being aspected by a 120-degree aspect from Rahu, which is not a very good sign. So in case you are having some gastric troubles, in case you are having some undiagnosable diseases, then chant the mantra of Rahu, which happens to be Om Bhram Bhrim Bhram Sah Rahve Namah. Once again, Om Bhram Bhrim Bhram Sah Rahve Namah every morning for at least 10 to 15 minutes. Let's move ahead and talk about your love life now. Love life is seen from the 5th house. The owner of the 5th house will move to the 5th house from the 16th, and then there is a lot of things are happening in your love life, lot new proposals, and if you were thinking of giving somebody a proposal, then yes, this is the right time. You can do so, but after the 16th, because that will be far better. Then let's talk about your marital life, which is seen from the 7th house. Unfortunately, the 7th lord is in the 8th house. It has been so for the past many months, and it will remain so for the next year as well. And what it means is that the spouse will become a little adamant. The spouse health might be at stake, but it is largely good as far as the wealth of your spouse is concerned, or the inflow of money of your spouse is concerned. So in case health is being a cause of concern, then you can chant the Bij mantras of Saturn. The Bij mantra of Saturn is Om Prang Pring Prong Sah Shanischaraya Nama. Once again, Om Prang Pring Prong Sah Shanischaraya Nama. Moving forward and talking about your education now. Education is seen from the 5th house, and the natural significator of education is going to occupy the 5th house from the 7th, that is Mercury, and then Mars is going to enter on the 16th. All this promises to be a good time as far as education is concerned. Moving forward and talking about your career now. Career is seen Career is seen from the 10th house. Now the owner of the 10th house happens to be Jupiter. Does happens to be Mars, but Jupiter is occupying the 10th house, which enables you to gain new jobs, to gain new opportunities, and to accomplish the tasks which you have been assigned successfully in your career. Promotion is also on the cards after the 16th. Now let's talk about your business. Now business is seen from the 7th house, and the owner of the 7th house is in the 8th house, and the Jupiter occupies the 10th house. So it is okay for the people who are in the business concerning the 8th house. For example, LIC, excavation, mining, astrology, occult, etc. However, for others, this is not a very conducive time. So in case you can just hold your horses for a few months before investing any big chunk of money, then it will be far more fruitful. Wait, let the Saturn go to the next sign and then put in the money. One more thing before we move ahead is let's talk about Rahu, because Rahu is occupying the 9th house, and therefore this is going to promote long travels for the next 1.5 years. Alright, so let us move forward and talk about the Leo sign now. The planets are sitting in the Leo horoscope for the month of November 2023 in this fashion. Venus occupies the Ascendant, Ketu happens to be in the 2nd house, the Sun, the Mars and the Mercury happen to be in the 3rd house. In the 7th house we have the presence of Saturn, in the 8th house of Rahu, in the 9th house of Jupiter. Now, what does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something that we are going to discuss right ahead. Talking about your luck factor, which is seen from the 9th house, and it is occupied by Jupiter, the great benefic force, and therefore luck is running high, destiny is supporting you. If you were thinking of taking some important decision for your life, then yes, this is the time. Let's talk about your health now. The health is seen from the Ascendant, and the Ascendant Lord, Sun, is there with two friends, Mars and Mercury, and it is going to enter the sign of Scorpio in a little while. However, till now it was debilitated, but from the 16th it is going to gain momentum, and therefore it will promise good immunity power. Talking about your love life now, which is seen from the 5th house. The 5th house owner is Jupiter, and it is having an aspect of 240 degrees on the sign of Sagittarius, which is a good sign, and therefore Love at college, love at school, love at educational institutions is something which is there on the cards. It is a good time and a promising time as far as love life is concerned. Let's talk about your married life now. Married life is seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house happens to be Saturn. It is placed in the 7th house. This promises to be a good time as far as marital harmony and marital happiness is concerned. Moving ahead and talking about your education now. Education is seen from the 5th house, and the owner of the 5th house is comfortably placed in the 9th house, that is Jupiter, and therefore educational prospects are very nice. Whatever you aim for, you will be able to get more marks than that. Talking about your career now, which is seen from the 10th house, and Venus happens to be the owner of the 10th house, and Venus is going to meet Ketu from the 3rd till the 30th of November. Now this is a little cause of concern, so you have to be careful of what you speak, because whatever you speak can be taken and will be taken against you. That means there will be some kind of backbiting, etc. The boss might not be happy with your work, although you did it with all your heart, and maybe that you were even right. Still, there might be some kind of blame being ascribed to you. Now, if that is the case, what you can do at your end is you can do the Bij mantras of Ketu. The Bij mantra of Ketu is Om Sram Srim Sram Sah Ketve Namah. A separate video is available on my YouTube channel on this particular mantra. Alright, finally let's talk about business. Now business is seen from the 7th house. The 7th lord happens to be Saturn, sitting in its own house comfortably well with Jupiter supporting from the 9th house. This happens to be a good time for business growth. So let us move further and now talk about the Virgo sign. Let us see where the planets are placed in the Virgo horoscope for the month of November 2023. Well, in your first house, we have the presence of Ketu. In the second house, we have the presence of the Sun, the Mars, the Mercury. In the 6th house, Saturn. In the 7th house, Rahu. In the 8th house, Jupiter. And in the 12th house, we have the presence of Venus. What does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something that we are going to discuss right ahead. First of all, let's talk about your luck factor. Luck is seen from the 9th house. The owner of the 9th house, unfortunately, is going to meet Ketu from the 3rd till the 30th of November. Therefore, luck is running low. And if there were some important things which you needed to do, then please postpone them to certain other time, because this is not a very conducive time. Now let's talk about the health factor. Ketu has now occupied your ascendant and it will be there for the next 1.5 years, which means you will be concentrating on certain things, and because of the concentration on one particular aspect of life, there might be a lot of disinterest, there might be depression, because you will be ignoring other aspects of life. Other than that, there might be some leg pains, backbone issues, and issues related to the urology, urine related issues. So these are some of the issues which you need to be on guard against, and if it is giving some problem, Ketu, then you can chant the Bij mantras of Ketu, or you can do Ganesh Vandana, that is offer your prayers to Lord Ganesha. Let's move forward and talk about your love life now. Love life is seen from the 5th house. The owner of the 5th house is in the 6th house. It might lead to certain misunderstandings, especially because Rahu is again in the 7th house, which is a lot of suspicions. So if you were planning to propose your loved one for marriage, then perhaps this is not the right time to do so. Let's move ahead and talk about your marital life now. Rahu has moved to your 7th house, the house of your marriage. This creates a lot of suspicions and third-party interventions. Do not listen to other people. Try and create harmony. Try and maintain harmony at home, because this is something which you'll have to do for the next 1.5 years. If you just blindly suspect your spouse, then this might lead to temporary separations and altercations. In psychology, there is something which we call delusion of infidelity. Now these are the times when a person really has that kind of a delusion. So whether it is a delusion or whether it is something which is actually happening, you need to understand that there are certain ways which we need to adopt in order to modify the behaviors of people who we are born to live with. So if you are in a relationship and of a husband and wife, then you need to be a little forgiving and a little more diplomatic in your approach to solving these issues. Alright, let's move forward and let's talk about your education now. Education is seen from the 5th house. The owner of the 5th house happens to be in the 6th house, which means it's a good time as far as competitive examinations are concerned. For the rest, you need to put in a little more effort. Let's talk about your career now. Now, career is seen from the 10th house. The owner of the 10th house, in your case, happens to be Mercury. Mercury is sitting in the 2nd house with Mars, and it is going to enter Scorpio. Now, this all is not a very, very conducive sign, which means there might be opposition from the boss, which you'll have to somehow bear and tolerate. And in case it is difficult for you, then you can, to alleviate the situation, you can chant the Bij mantras of Mars. The Bij mantra of Mars is Om Krang Kring Krong Sa Bhamaya Nama. Once again, Om Krang Kring Krong Sa Bhamaya Nama. Okay, let's move forward and let's talk about now your business prospects. Business is seen from the 7th house. In the 7th house, we have the presence of Rahu, and the 7th Lord is in the 8th house. Now, this is not at all a good time to invest more in business. Whatever new offers you're getting, they're just superficial, and if you go deep and try to analyze them, try to verify whatever the other person proclaims to be, or whatever other person proclaims the deal is, then you will find a lot of lacunas, you will find a lot of problems which are there, and therefore you need to really weigh your options before entering into any new business endeavors. Now let's move forward and talk about the Libra sign. Let's see the planetary placements for the month of November 2023 in the Libra horoscope. We have the Sun, the Mars and the Mercury in the 1st house. We have Saturn in the 5th, Rahu in the 6th, Jupiter in the 7th house, Venus in the 11th house, and Ketu in the 12th house. What does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something that we're going to discuss in detail right ahead. First, let's talk about the luck factor, which is seen from the 9th house. Now, Mercury, the owner of the 9th house, is going to enter Scorpio from the 7th till the 27th. Although Sun and Mars are going to join from the 16th, but broadly, this is not a very conducive time as far as luck is concerned. Luck is just average, or even I can say below average, which means if there were some important decisions which you were thinking to take, then this is not the right time. Just hold your horses for a little while, and when the sun shines again, then you can take those decisions. Let's talk about your health now. Now, the health is seen from the 1st house, which is occupied by Mercury, Mars and Sun for the first half of the month. But from the second half of the month, also, when there will be no planet in the 1st house, still the house lord Venus will be there with Ketu, which means that you need to be a little on guard as far as your health is concerned. Sometimes this is called a Venus and Ketu combination. It gives us a fall, so you need to be careful while climbing or using the stairs or while in the washrooms. And it also gives certain problems with your backbone or with your glands. So what you can do in case some of you might suffer from this kind of a problem, then you can do chant the Bij mantras of Ketu. The Bij mantra of Ketu is Om Sran Srim Sron Sa Ketve Nama. Now, moving ahead and talking about your love life, which is seen from the 5th house. 5th house is occupied by the 5th Lord Saturn, which is a very conducive sign. So as far as your love life is concerned, it is really booming high, it is good, and you can enjoy your love life. Let's talk about your marital prospects now. Jupiter is placed in your marriage house and is giving a lot of benevolent aspects over there, and therefore the marital life is going to be good, harmonious, healthy, and you're going to enjoy it throughout November 2023. Talking about your education, again it is seen from the 5th house. The presence of Saturn over there promises you better marks than what you expected. So if you were planning to take some examinations, then yes, this is the time. Just go ahead and do it. Of course, you must have studied for it though. Alright, let's move forward and talk about your career prospects now. Career is seen from the 10th house. The owner of the 10th house is Moon, which will continue to shift from every 2.5 days, and therefore we need to see the other aspects. And Rahu is aspecting the 10th house from a 120-degree aspect, which leads to some kind of an overwork. So the work is going to increase, and you need to be just biding by your time for it to reduce. And let's move forward and talk about your business life now. in your business is seen from the 7th house, and Jupiter is occupying the 7th house. Mars is also going to be in its own house from the 16th, and therefore with the support of Mars and Sun, this is a good time for you as far as business is concerned. Also of procuring orders from the government, this is a very good time. If you were looking for some approvals from the government, then this is a good time. So in every way it is a good time as far as business is concerned. Finally, Ketu in the 12th house also promotes foreign travels and travels to religious places. Let's move forward and let's talk about the Scorpio sign. First of all, let's have a look at the various planetary placements in your horoscope throughout the month of November 2023. Well, in your 4th house we have the placement of Saturn, in your 5th house Rahu, in the 6th house we have Jupiter, in the 10th house we have Venus, in the 11th house we have Ketu, and in the 12th house we have the placement of 3 planets, Sun, Mars and Mercury. Now, what does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something that we are going to discuss in detail right ahead. First of all, let's talk about your luck factor. Luck is seen from the 9th house, and Rahu is aspecting the 9th house from a 120-degree aspect, which promises only an average luck. Therefore, if you were thinking of taking some important decisions in your life, then this is not the right time. Number 2, let's move on to the health aspect. So health is seen from the 1st house, and the owner of the health happens to be Mars, which is there in the 12th house till the 16th, along with debilitated Sun, which is not a very conducive sign. However, from the 16th, Mars is going to enter the sign of Scorpio, and Sun is also going to be there with him, and therefore the immunity power is going to increase. So if you were suffering from diseases earlier, then from the 16th, if you were also the diseases could have been communicable diseases, viral diseases, fevers, boils, or problems with the feet, but now this is going to end, and from the 16th the immunity power is going to boost up. Let's talk about your love life now. In your 5th house now we have the presence of Rahu, and the owner of the 5th house going to the 6th house. So there is a lot of change which is happening. What happens is you might be leaving one partner and another partner will be coming to you. Many people will be having this kind of a change in their love relationships. So there are some new things on the horizons. Let's move ahead and talk about your marital life now. Marital life is seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house happens to be Venus, but it is going to meet Ketu from the 3rd till the 30th, and therefore this is going to be not good for the health of your spouse, or there are going to be some altercations, some problems, or some temporary separations. For example, if the husband or the wife has a project in which he or she has to go somewhere and attend it for 15-20 days, then it leads to a temporary separation. Okay, let's move forward and talk about the educational prospects now. Now, Rahu moving to the house of education gives a lot of distractions, and somehow you have to overcome the distractions in case if you want to get good marks. And if you want to alleviate yourself from this situation, then you can chant the Bij mantras of Rahu. The Bij mantra of Rahu is Om Brahm Bhrim Brahm Sar Rahve Nama. Let's move forward and talk about your career life. Now, career is seen from the 10th house. The owner of 10th house happens to be Sun. Sun is debilitated in the 12th house. It was not going right for you. It is not going right for you. But from the 16th, Sun is going to move to the Ascendant. It is going to move with Mars. Mars is going to gain momentum. Sun is going to gain momentum. And therefore, there has to be a positive shift in your career from the 16th. So if you were suffering, if you were down in your career, then it is going to change very soon, because even recognition, even promotion, even a change in the assignment or a change of the boss is there on the cards in the month of November 2023 for you, Scorpions. Let's move forward and talk about your business life now. Business is seen from the 7th house. The owner of your 7th house happens to be Venus, but Venus is going to contact Ketu in the 11th house. So apart from those of you who are in the business of Ketu, that is wires, hairs, like hair wigs and all, saloons, etc., or something to do with mines, something to do with occult, something to do with tantra, something to do with the Wiccan stuff, etc., something to do even with children. So apart from that, it is not a good time. as far as business prospects are concerned. You have to keep your policies flexible, otherwise some of our clients might leave us. So be sweet, add softeners in your policies and in your speech for the time being. Now, before I move forward, one last thing which I'd like to say is that Ketu has come in your 11th house, which somehow decreases the income level. And therefore, in case it happens with you, you can do something for Ketu to make sure that the income is reinstated. And what you can do is, after every 2.5 months, you can chant the Bij mantras of Ketu. And the Bij mantra of Ketu is Om Sram Srim Sram Saketve Nama. So 17,000 to 34,000 mantras in 21 days for 2.5 months, and then after 2.5 months again, and then after 2.5 months again, until 1.5 years when the Ketu moves from Virgo to Leo. Alright, let's move forward to the sign of Sagittarius now. The planets which are posited in your horoscope throughout the month of November 2023 are as follows. We have Saturn in your 3rd house, Rahu in your 4th house, Jupiter in your 5th house, Venus in your 9th house, Ketu in your 10th house, the Sun, the Mars and the Mercury in your 11th house. Now, what does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something that we're going to discuss in detail right now. Talking about your luck factor. Luck factor is seen from the 9th house. Owner of the 9th house is debilitated in the 11th house and is going in the 12th house. All this promises to be a period which is not very high on the luck. So you need to hold your horses in case you were thinking of taking some important decisions and this is not the right time. Let's move ahead and talk about your health. Health is seen from the 1st house. The owner of the 1st house happens to be Jupiter, and Jupiter is occupying the 5th house, which is a good sign. So the health is guarded. Let's talk about your love life. Love life is again seen from the 5th house. Jupiter is occupying the 5th house and the 5th owner is seeing the 5th house till the 16th. It is wonderful time as far as love life is concerned. If you were thinking of proposing somebody, you can propose it before the 16th. So before the 16th, it is very good to gain a love partner. After the 16th, it is very good to enjoy with the love partner. Let's move ahead and talk about the married life now. Married life is seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house in your case happens to be Mercury. Now Mercury is going to move to the 12th house from the 7th till the 27th. So this is going to be a good month as far as bed comforts and enjoyment is concerned, but there of course are going to be expenses. Let's move forward and talk about your education now. Education is seen from the 5th house and Jupiter is there in the 5th house, and therefore it is a very good month for education. If you were planning to take some examinations, then just go ahead and do so. And whatever you were planning or whatever you were thinking that the percentage would be, the result is going to be far above than that. Now let's move forward and talk about your career. Now career is seen from the 10th house, and in the 10th house now Ketu has entered. Now this is a little problem because it offers obstructions for the next 1.5 years. And especially this month because Venus meets and remains with Ketu. And Venus is something which is a natural karak for business, right? So therefore, what is very important is to make sure that you do some remedies of Ketu for the next 1.5 years to make sure that the income level is not compromised. And if you can do some kind of donations of til, sesame seeds or sesame seeds, the black and the white ones together on Amavas, that is a new moon, or on any eclipse day, then that will be very beneficial. Otherwise, you can do Ganesh Chalisa, that is chanting of the prayers of Lord Ganesha for 40 straight days, then that will also be very nice. Let's move forward now. And let's talk about your business life. Business is seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house happens to be Mercury. It will move to the 12th house. So in case you were looking in for some new prospects of business from foreign places, from outside, wherever you're living from, outside country, then it is good. Otherwise, this is a not very good time. Let Mercury move on to Sagittarius after the 27th, and then the business prospects are going to open up, and then the business is going to boom. Let's move on now to the Capricorn sign. First of all, let's have a look at the planets which are placed in your horoscope all throughout the month of November 2023. Well, we have Saturn in your 2nd house, Rahu in your 3rd house, Jupiter in your 4th house, Venus in your 8th house, Ketu in your 9th house, and Sun, Mars and Mercury in your 10th house. Now, what does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something that we are going to discuss in detail right ahead. Let's talk about the luck factor, which is seen from the 9th house. The owner of the 9th house happens to be Mercury. Mercury is not very well placed currently, and Ketu has come to your 9th house, which means luck is a little low, and therefore if there were some important decisions which you were thinking of taking, then this is not the right time, my dear friends. Let's talk about your health now. Health is seen from the Ascendant, and Saturn, is the Ascendant Lord, is sitting in the 2nd house, which is good. It has crossed the blemish of Ketu. Earlier it was retrograde. Now from the 4th of November it is direct. 4th or 5th of November it is direct, and therefore this is a good time as far as health is concerned. The immunity power is going to increase. You're going to find, if there were some problems which were happening earlier, they're going to reduce, and you're going to gain good health. Let's talk about your love life now. Love life is seen from the 5th house. The owner of the 5th house in your case happens to be Venus, but it is going to meet Ketu from the 3rd till the 30th of November. This is not a good sign, and therefore there are bound to be misunderstandings and separations in your love affairs. So be a little forgiving. Be on a little guard before you speak something which is not very nice. Alright, let's talk about your marital life now. So marital life is seen from the 7th house. Rahu is casting a 120-degree aspect to the 7th house, which creates a lot of suspicions or some kind of ill health it gives to the spouse. Let's move on and talk about your education now. Education is seen from the 5th house. Venus meeting Ketu doesn't promise to be a very conducive month as far as education is concerned. It means that you'll have to put more effort, and finally the result will be a little less. Let's move on and talk about your career now. Now career is seen from the 10th house, and the owner of the 10th house is not well placed because Venus is going to meet Ketu. Now Sun, Mars and Mercury are currently occupying the 10th house, but Sun and Mars are going to move to the 11th house very soon, and therefore the career is not going to improve this month, but a lot of changes are going to happen. So if you were not very happy with the boss, there might be a news that some new boss is going to come. And by the next month, there will be a lot of improvement in your career front, because then a lot of changes would have already taken place. Alright, so let's talk about your business now. Now business is seen from the 7th house, which is being aspected from a 120-degree by Rahu. The other factor is that some planet which could have given us prosperity, that is Venus, it is going to meet Ketu. And therefore this is going to be a depressive time as far as business is concerned. So it is definitely not the time where you can invest more money and explore more business prospects. Finally, since Rahu has come to the 3rd house, there might be some altercations with the neighbors, or the neighbors might be in some kind of a trouble. Alright guys, let us move forward and talk about the Aquarius sign. Now, first of all, let's have a look at various planetary placements in your horoscope all throughout the month of November 2023. Well, in your 1st house, we have the presence of the mighty Saturn, in the 2nd house Rahu, in the 3rd house Jupiter, in the 7th house Venus, in the 8th house Ketu, in the 9th house Sun, Mars and Mercury. Now, what does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something that we are going to discuss right ahead. Luck is seen from the 9th house. The owner of the 9th house is going to meet Ketu in the 8th house, so luck is very, very low. It is not at all the time to take any kind of important decisions in your life. However, in the next month, Venus is going to move forward and the luck is going to glow. So just wait for a little while more, and then your luck is going to shine. Let's talk about your health. Saturn is in the Ascendant. It's in its own sign. Health is going to remain good. However, there may be some kind of cough, cold, cough or cold, and some kind of laziness can be there for the next 12 months. Let's talk about your love life now, which is seen from the 5th house. The owner of the 5th house is not in a very promising condition right now. So till the 7th it is good, but after that it isn't. It is going to take a little while till the 27th when it moves to Sagittarius, and after the 27th again it will be a booming time for your love life. Let's move ahead and let's talk about your marital prospects. Now, marriage is seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house happens to be Sun, which is currently debilitated in the 9th house. But from the 16th, it is going to move to the 10th house. The house is good. With the friend, Mars, which happens to be the house owner as well, which is again good. And therefore, Sun is going to gain enormous amount of power. And therefore, the satisfaction which you will derive from your marital relationship is suddenly going to increase. Let's talk about your educational prospects now. Education is seen from the 9th house. The owner happens to be Mercury. So therefore, education is good from the 1st till the 7th of November, or again from the 27th of November onwards. In between, it is not a very good time. So in case you can somehow take the examinations before the 7th or after the 27th, it will be a far, far, far better prospect. Alright, let's move ahead and talk about your career now. The career is seen from the 10th house. The owner of the 10th house in your case happens to be Mars. Now Mars is going to come to its own house from the 16th along with Sun. So the career is going to shine. Promotion is on the cards. Recognition is on the cards. Appreciations are on the cards. And therefore, from the 16th, your luck as far as career is concerned, that is going to shine. Now let's talk about your business life. Business is seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house happens to be Sun. So after the 16th, it is going to enter the 10th house along with its friend, and it's going to gain momentum, and therefore business is going to boom. But after the 16th of November. Alright, so it is time for us now to move on and discuss about the Pisces sign. Alright, so let's see where the planets are sitting in the Pisces horoscope all throughout the month of November 2023. In your first house, we have the presence of Rahu. In your second house, we have Jupiter. In your sixth house, we have Venus. Seventh house, we have Ketu. In the eighth house, we have Sun. We have Mars. We have Mercury. And in your 12th house, we have the presence of the mighty Saturn. So what does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something that we are going to discuss right ahead. Let's talk about your luck factor. The luck factor is seen from the 9th house. Now, the 9th house owner happens to be Mars. Right now, the luck is down because Mars is sitting in the 8th house along with a debilitated Sun, along with a 4 Mercury. But things are going to change pretty soon. From the 16th, Mars is going to enter its own sign, along with its friend Sun, who will no longer be debilitated. And therefore, the luck will increase after the 16th. If there were certain important decisions which you were thinking to take, then do take them after the 16th of November. Let's talk about your health now. Health is seen from the first house. Rahu has entered your first house for the next 1.5 years. It is going to remain there. So there are going to be troubles related with digestive issues, troubles related with your blood, overthinking, suspicions, etc. And if that is the case, then you can chant Beej mantras of Rahu to alleviate your problems. The Beej mantra of Rahu is Om Bhram Bhrim Bhram Sarrave Namah. Once again, Om Bhram Bhrim Bhram Sarrave Namah. A separate video is available on my YouTube channel on this particular mantra. Let's move forward and let's talk about your love life now. Now, love life is seen from the 5th house. The owner of the 5th house happens to be Moon. But now the 5th house will be, if we see more closely, then we see that the natural significator of love, that is Venus, is going to be with Ketu, and therefore this is not a very promising sign as far as love life is concerned. And after the 16th, the Sun, the Mars will also come to the 9th house, aspecting from a 240-degree aspect the 5th house, and therefore this is again not going to be a very, very good month as far as love life is concerned. However, it is going to improve after the 30th of November when Venus crosses Ketu, and then the things are going to be slightly better, and which I'll talk about a little more in my next video. So next, let's talk about educational prospects. Education is seen from the 5th house, and Rahu aspecting from a 120-degree, the education house gives a lot of distractions, and therefore it is very important for you to concentrate and have focus on what you want to do and not spread your wings trying to do many things at one particular point in time. Let's move forward and talk about your career prospects. Now, career is seen from the 10th house, and the owner of the 10th house happens to be Jupiter, which is placed very well in the 2nd house and at a friendly sign, and therefore career is on a boom. If you were looking for new jobs, then this is the right time. And if you were looking for promotions, then after the 16th of November, the prospects will be brighter, and in December they will be even brighter. Now let's talk about your business prospects. Business is seen from the 7th house. In the 7th house, now we have a presence of Ketu, which is definitely a bad sign for the next 1.5 years, and therefore you need to do some remedy in case the business is falling and the customers are leaving, and that can be offering prayers to Lord Ganesha for 40 straight days, chanting Ganesh Chalisa. Now, apart from that, keep your policies a little flexible just to make sure that the clients do not go away and you at least have the same amount of business growth or business momentum as you were having earlier. So alright, this is all I have for you for the month of November, and until we meet in our next video, may God shower upon you His choicest blessings. This is Prabal Frank Nandwani signing off.